Welcome everyone to the launch of Feedback Aide, our essay scoring and feedback product. We call it Reclaiming Teachers' Weekends because we know how much time teachers are spending scoring homework and giving feedback to students. And we're super excited. I'm super excited about this. It's one of the most important and biggest product launches we've done. So super excited about this. So the presenters today are myself, Gavin Cooney. I'm the founder and CEO of Learnosity, and my email address is right there. And feel free to reach out to me at any point if you have any questions about this or anything else. As Molly just mentioned, I'm in Dublin right now. I spend some of my time, and we're joined today by Monet. She's the product manager and has been working on Feedback Aide. Monet, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Monet. I've been working on Feedback Aid for almost a year now, which is so exciting. Based in Toronto, so I'm able to kind of chat with all of our customers in this area. My email's up on there. We actually had to give me a special one, Monet at learnosity.com, so you don't have to remember how to spell my last name. But I'm really focusing on grading going forward, rubrics, etc. So if you are interested in this problem space, want to dig deeper, feel free to reach out. I'm really excited to get into this with you today.
Brilliant. So just housekeeping, we have some Q&A functionality. There's a chat functionality. Please ask any questions that you have. You're going to be muted during this. Myself and Monet will present. At the end, we'll take some of the questions that have been asked. And we're excited to address them. You can email us both directly, as we've just mentioned, or email team@learnosity.com. We are recording this, and we will be sending this out to everybody signed up and probably putting it on our website as well. The other thing you can do is just request a demo. Just throw it into the chat. If you want the demo, please do that, and we'll reach out and dig in with a personal demo. Monet is very keen to do all that and to meet many more of our customers and potential partners. So overview, what we're going to talk about is some of the challenges facing learners and educators, particularly in this area, and introduce our new product, Feedback Aide, which I said I'm super excited to do. We're going to give some live demos of various different types of questions and different types of rubrics. We're going to talk about pricing. We're going to dig into some stats or how accurate it is, the different use cases for it, some of the feedback we've had so far, and then we're going to give you a sneak preview of some of the things we're working on, and then we're going to do a Q&A. So without further ado, Learnosity are establishing ourselves as a leader in AI for assessment. Very big push inside and outside of the organization to establish ourselves in this way. This is an opportunity for us, and we really believe in this space, and we really believe we can make a difference. We're uniquely positioned. We've got some great people. We've got great clients. We have a huge amount of students and teachers using our product every single day, and a lot of data that goes through there. And we believe fundamentally people don't need to reinvent the wheel to get the stuff out. So the goal is simple. In the same way you've chosen us to be the engine to do assessment creation or delivery, we want to be able to enable you to do that for other parts of your product that will need to be enhanced by AI. So Monet, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really looking at this space, right? Because we know that learners are facing daunting challenges right now. There's skill gaps in critical areas, whether they're catching up from pandemic or just preparing for what's next. And we know that assessment is one of the best tools we have to prepare students, whether they're in kindergarten or university, for those challenges. And we're looking here both at assessment of learning, your summative tests, your certifications, your AP exams, and assessment for learning. So your low stakes formative assessment. And low stakes formative assessment is so important too. I kind of think of it, if you remember in university, like the kid who would be in the library for 8 hours a day, highlighting a textbook versus the one who's quizzing themselves for like an hour and a half, and then they ace the midterm. It's because that kind of formative testing, it really gets you actively engaged, right? Helps you practice your skills, and it creates an environment, a growth mindset where you can kind of improve over time. So we know that learners need two things to really help them improve. They need authentic assessment. that allows them to demonstrate their skills in things like critical thinking and problem solving. And they also need feedback, good feedback, actionable feedback. Not just a grade, but a clear explanation of your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you can improve for next time. Now, educators know this, right? Educators know that feedback is critical for learning, but educators are also struggling, right? There's been so many studies on this. One recent one, K-12 teachers spending over 5 hours a week grading, right? And I was actually surprised it was even that low. My mom is a teacher, retired now, but I remember growing up, the mountains of marking coming home in bins, the stacks on the kitchen table. I was recruited to mark sometimes, did the spelling while she really focused in on that, more in depth uh, paragraph responses and stuff. But, teachers know it's a core part of the learning journey. They take feedback very seriously. And it creates a huge burden, a huge overload, really, to get the feedback that they want to give. College professors as well. Studies, I think, from Times said, you're seeing over 5 hours a week on weekends alone working. Gab, you were even a lecturer too, right? About so you would know all about this.
Yeah, back in the day, I did a couple of years lecturing in university, and I remember grading papers and probably not doing it well enough. And also, one of my best friends is my cousin. He is, to this day, a college lecturer, and I see him use all of his Easter holidays and a bunch of his summer holidays and a bunch of his Christmas holidays grading papers, grading assignments, and grading exams. I see it's a huge, huge, huge workload, and anything we can do there to help really, really makes a big difference here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then, kind of on the other hand as well, when you're looking at those sort of large scale summative assessments, where the scores can be consequential for what and learners' next steps, you need multiple graders grading them as well, and that creates quite a large burden. And we think there's some opportunity there too.
Yeah, and
So,
what we're focusing here on is the homework and assignment piece, the formative lower stakes stuff. But we absolutely see this leaking into large scale summative assessments as a kind of second grader, not necessarily something that's giving a full grade or something that's kind of going to be the difference between somebody getting into college or becoming a doctor or something like that. But it is there to be able to help improve the accuracy of grading on a large scale.
yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point on the two different kind of use cases there. And I think kind of overall, what we're seeing on the big picture is a system that's just not effective right now, for learners or educators. So we have educators who are overwhelmed and not able to give the quality of feedback that they want to offer. Sometimes essays go completely ungraded because there's just not time. And that leads to educators assigning less authentic assessment, stuff that they can mark really quickly, stuff like an MCQ, right? We've all heard the headlines about teacher shortages, and it's something that we really want to look into and help tackle and help with there.
I'm a member of a Facebook group in Ireland of teachers who are leaving the profession, and they're all talking about how overworked they are, how much extra work grading is bringing them, how much work to do outside of the classroom that's underappreciated, it's not paid for, it's really difficult. And this kind of teacher shortage, it's happening all over the United States. It's happening in Ireland as well, where you can't hire enough teachers to staff these classes, which is an absolute disaster for education in general and for generally for society. So anything we can do to kind of reduce that burnout and reduce that workload for teachers is going to be really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to Feedback Aide. So, Feedback Aide, which we are premiering for you today, is an assistive grading tool powered by AI and developed by our team of assessment experts. So if we stop and focus kind of on the name here, feedback, because there's a huge focus for us on getting actionable feedback for each learner. That's not possible for a teacher to deliver in high quantities for every assignment to every student, right? And it's an aid because it's an assistive technology. It's not replacing teachers. The teacher is still there reading, grading, giving feedback, but we're trying to save them time. while still really giving those benefits to learners. Now, Feedback Aide speeds up essay scoring while maintaining educator control. So basically, with this grading burden lowered, educators are more likely to use those authentic assessments that give learners opportunities to demonstrate their skills. It also ensures that higher quality feedback gets to learners faster. And because of the human level accuracy and high consistency, and we're going to show you those numbers just in a little bit, it also improves consistency of the feedback for sort of large scale assessments kind of across the board. Now, I want to talk a little bit about our approach because auto-scored essays isn't new. It was just very difficult, kind of old-fashioned AI, where you have the author write a question, get 1,000 learners to respond to it, have 2 or more experts score it, throw in a psychometrician, train a model, and there you go. But that's a huge effort, a huge cost, right? And we have over 370 million items in our bank. So about 15% of them are open response, essay, etc. It's just not feasible to train 55 million models. Also, most essays don't even have 1,000 responses, right? This old method was really only appropriate for those large scale standardized assessments. So with our approach, we're doing exceptional essay grading from the very first essay. So there's no training needed. You bring your own rubric and off you go. Our approach means it's feasible for, say, a teacher in a K-6 elementary school outside of Toronto to give their own assignment to a small class of like 25 and to have just as good feedback, just as high quality as what you're getting with a standardized test created by an expert that's going to 100,000. So we're really excited about it. And even more exciting, Gab is going to show it to you right now.
Thank you. Let's drop in here. Just let me know if you can still see what I'm seeing.
Yeah, we're all good.
Great. So here we have the standard workflow for a teacher, right? They have the essay on the left-hand side, and they have a rubric on the right-hand side that they kind of read through the essay, and then they go through the rubric, and they kind of say, oh, yeah, that was good, and that was satisfactory, and so on. I'm trying to turn on the lights in this room again. And they go through here, and then they give some sort of feedback. So realistically, if you've ever seen one of your kids' feedback on paper or remember from your own schooling, you kind of get some sort of thing like, this was good, try harder next time, or something like that. Or like read chapter 7, or some basic piece of feedback. That's how it works right now. You read the essay, you give feedback, and you might give some sort of grade or score, and you might give some sort of basic feedback. Now let's look at Feedback Aide. So here is a live example of Feedback Aide working. So when it loads here, you'll see on the left-hand side, you have an essay that the teacher can read. And while doing that, in the background, the AI is doing the grading. So it's working through the criteria, and it's going to grade that. Grading criteria 3, 4, 5, and so on. You can see it grading away. So by the time the teacher has read this, it's already graded. So we can see here that was excellent. You can see it's good. Identification, organization is obviously an excellent in here. I can confirm that. I can override this particular grade. I can confirm this one, leave these ones out. And then I have 5 paragraphs of feedback written here under the same topics as the rubric, and I can add to that if I want. I can say organization. I can say your organization was particularly good here. Well done, Monet. So I can add in that personalized extra feedback to here. But now, as a student, I'm getting so much more detailed grading and feedback than ever would have been possible before. So let's have another example here. Here is that was a 23 out of 25 or something when it came through. Here's a kind of a weaker sample. I might get 17 or 20 or something like that. So it's a shorter version of the essay, and you'll see here it's grading and it's kind of satisfactory. As you can see in the background, you can see these in here. So here's, yep, satisfactory the whole way through. Use of evidence was insufficient, that needs improvement, and so on. And there's only a few minor errors in grammar. They got a 15 out of 25. And now we have this. I can confirm some of these things or just leave them. And of course, I can dig in and I can add more feedback wherever I want. So maybe the area of use of evidence, you really need to improve on this area. So we can add that in here as well and submit. So now we'll go to another example. So here is a different type of rubric. Monet, do you want to talk about that rubric?
Yeah, this is a rubric with ranges. So the one we saw, this is still an analytic rubric where we break down student performance into different criteria, which Gav pointed out, and it's broken down in the feedback box as well. But with ranges, you're just adding some flexibility. It's good where there's more nuanced differences in quality that need recognition, and it just gives a little bit more control. And
And we
really,
found this when we dug into this with our clients, that some of them had standard kind of 5x5 rubrics or 4x5 or whatever that would be. And sometimes you had this more detailed rubric that we wanted to facilitate. Again, you have the same type of feedback that's been generated here, and we can add to it if necessary. Let's move on to the next example. Next example here is a holistic rubric. So this is where the essay in this case has been graded from a 1 to a 6. And it's a holistic rubric, meaning it isn't that kind of analytic box that you've seen before. It's just one grade. So here I got a 4 out of 6 that that describes my achievement in this essay here on the left hand side. As a teacher, I can confirm that if I want, and I can add more feedback in here. In this case, we generated quite a bit of feedback for the student. Again, actionable feedback the student can really kind of look at and work
I like how it's
on. Here's an
curved.
example. Go
I
ahead.
just saw it has a quote of the learner's work in the feedback section there. I really like it when it does those examples. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Here's an example where the student just didn't write enough to be graded. So the AI knows it's not gradable. It checks this box as not scoreable. It doesn't give it a score. And then it just gives this feedback saying provided response was too short to evaluate. Let's have another example. So here's another essay. We're grading this. Oh, so what it's done here is we've built in all types of inappropriate content detection in here. So we're checking for sexual content, inappropriate content, harassment, cry for help, this kind of stuff, and areas of concern. And we pop this up for the teacher, and that's something very easy. I'm going to acknowledge that, but it's going to be very easy for me as a teacher when I'm grading 50 of these things back to back to miss an extraordinary kind of cry for help in here. That's very, very easy to miss if you were just grading it and skimming through dozens, if not hundreds of essays at any one time. So we're now going and we're checking for those things, this kind of student health and student kind of cries for help. Super, super important. And obviously nobody wants to miss one of these signs. Of course you can miss it there in dozens of paragraphs. You can easily miss it. Being graded as normal, we can change the feedback. And again, when we go to submit, the teacher has to confirm that they've acknowledged that there's a problem here and they're going to ignore that and action it outside of the flow. So there you go. That's the quick demo. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more with some more advanced demos in a few minutes. So let's talk about the models here. A bit like any LLM, you've got different levels, and we're bringing. So we have a standard model right now. That's for quick draft grading, some formative assessments, low stakes stuff. And then you need an advanced model, more challenging stuff, maybe higher ed essays, where you really want human level accuracy, and that's more critical. You have the advanced model. But what we're bringing to the table here is completely game changing pricing. It's 1 cent an essay for standard, it's 5 cents an essay for advanced. And what that really does is it brings us into a whole new area that wasn't possible before. Old-fashioned AI, as I like to call it, is was hugely expensive, involved training a model. Here we can grade from the first essay, and we can do that at a price point that really includes possibilities of doing this for homework and for formative, just was wildly too expensive to do before. And now you have something that's just cost effective enough to be used every day. And there's no extra charge for this kind of for the content of concern, hate speech, threats, violence, cries for help, that kind of stuff. That's thrown in with this. There's no extra charge on that. So what we're doing is we've assembled about 50,000 human graded essay responses. We've taken them from our friends, our colleagues, our clients across the industry, and we've taken some from public data sets as well. So we have these data sets and a bunch of different rubrics, a bunch of different content from kind of grade 3 right through to university level, different types of essays, narrative, literary analysis, research tasks. And we're testing, we're not training any models, we're not training an LLM, and we're not training an underlying LLM. But we are testing ourselves, and we're building around that. And we're using this data to work out how accurate we can make this and how we can improve it. And we're seeing huge improvements over time. So let's talk about this. There's a thing called a quadratic weighted kappa, a quick score. So if you get hired tomorrow to grade the AP exams or something, what they'll generally do is they'll give you some subset of essays that have been professionally graded. And then they'll get you to grade them again, and they'll compare you to the kind of official grade. And then they'll do that statistical analysis to work out how well you scored, how much in agreement you are compared to the official grade. And you get a quick score, a quadratic weighted kappa. Now, that runs from a -1 to a 1. -1 is no agreement or less than chance agreement. Up to about a zero point 0.4 to a 0.6 is a moderate agreement, which is kind of a poor grader who maybe might need a bit more training. A 0.6 to a 0.8 is a average grader, can keep their job, keep on grading, and that's substantial agreement with the other essays that you're comparing against. And then you have almost perfect agreement, which is a 0.8 and above. Generally, two humans, myself and Mane, employed to grade a bunch of essays, will generally get maybe a 0.7 or above, and then we'll be happy enough that there's substantial agreement in there, and we keep on grading these things. So we use this measure then to check two humans, AI and human, AI and AI, and so on. So let's talk about where we got to. So in the standard model, it's the 1 cent model. We started off about June as we looked through our data sets. So we're getting a median about a 0.5 in terms of a quick score, a quadratic weighted kappa score. By August, as we improve that, we're getting a 0.58. And the release we're working on right now, which will be out in a week or two, is a 0.67, which is right up there with human grading, and a 0.67 is a respectable human score for a quick score. With the advanced model, back in June, we were about a 0.6. As we improve, as we work through more data sets, more essays, more improvement, more kind of more development around this, we got to a 0.69. And the upcoming release is a 0.77. And sometimes we're doing much, much better than that. So 0.77 is better generally than a human score would be. Put those together, you can see that the upcoming standard release is better than a few months ago we were doing in the advanced model, and we're getting better across the board here. Now, the overall accuracy. So here's an example of one data set we had of 800 essays. They were graded, I think it was 8 different traits with 4 points in each one, and they were graded as a result out of 32. And you can see here the comparison between the AI grade and the human score. And you have that nice correlation there. So we're generally within a few points of the human score. Sometimes we're finding that the AI is grading it more accurately than humans. We're finding things like you'll find the AI graded it lower than human, and you look at the response and you realize that it was just gibberish that the human didn't pick up, but the AI does. So it's really, really interesting when we see those examples of just kind of gibberish answers that the AI picks up on and the human doesn't. So this was one example where we got a remarkable quick score of a 0.91. That's awesome. That's just really, really aligned with that. And that's again, zero training, without passing through any samples, and just that continuous improvement, testing those 50,000 essays that we have, working through more data sets, and then using our learnings there to kind of generalize what we're doing. Again, we're not training an LLM, we're not training an AI model. Now let's look at traits. Here's one trait, which was ideas and elaboration. So this one trait, we're getting a 0.82, which is really, really good alignment with what a human would have done. Spelling, on the other hand, we were doing worse, right? So, and what we're realizing here is there are opportunities here where we can maybe use just a spell checker. Maybe an LLM is the wrong thing to be checking spelling with. So maybe just a spell checker doing that would be more accurate than an LLM. And these are the 8 traits in that particular data set, ranging from a 0.82 for an individual trait down to a 0.53. Now together, that was a point, whatever I said, a 0.91, which is phenomenal. Now we're going to talk about how consistent this is. So if I grade essays today and tomorrow using the same essay, how consistent will it be? Well, that's really, really consistent. So a point in the advanced model, a 0.9 in June to a 0.98 now, which is awesome. And in the standard model, it was a 0.88 in June and moving up to a 0.95 now, which is just really, really consistent and reliable reliable grading. And in fact, if I graded a thing on a Wednesday and then graded the essays again on a Thursday, I probably would get a worse score than that. So let's talk about the use cases, Monet.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of with all of the tuning and engineering we've done around Feedback Aide, we're enabling originally really looking to enable a cost-effective formative assessment, right? It's kind of your case where a teacher is spending anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes per essay, grading it, returning it weeks or months later. With Feedback Aide, we want to be able to get that feedback to learners immediately. Also, supporting, again, we're going to use the word authentic assessment, by which I really mean like project-based learning, case studies, reflective journals. I remember writing a short story set in ancient Egypt as part of a history unit. That kind of stuff that really sticks with you, right? The stuff that really like gets learners excited. With Feedback Aide, you can get it's feasible, right, to assign more of those kinds of topics and those kinds of work. This is also great for modern foreign language learning, for English language learners, and for personalizing test prep. So, I don't have to pay for an expensive prep coach necessarily if I can get some really solid quality feedback before I go into my exam. But what we're seeing, and as Gav showed you, is that we're actually seeing really good results, right? Like very high accuracy here. I mean, we talked about the use case for high stakes and certifications, where you have 2 essays or 2 graders grading each response because, as Gav said, graders get tired. They say, well, I've given out 2 A's, so this has to be a B, right? And with Feedback Aide, we think it can really work as a second grader, reducing the need for, say, 2.5 graders per response and bringing that number down to something that's more cost effective while still validating grader accuracy, ensuring consistency, and of course, ensuring the integrity of the grades that are being given. Again, it's human assisted, human in the loop, human as the final arbiter there. So what's really cool and what I'm excited about is how we're enabling all of these different use cases. And that's because Feedback Aide is a standalone API. If you're familiar with Learnosity, you know that we have a wonderful core of APIs that provide top-notch assessment, right? But with Feedback Aide, you don't necessarily have to be using our essay questions. It can fit into any product, essays from any source, anything digital, any system, it will work here because Feedback Aide is standalone, it's RESTful, which means it's super simple to use, fast to implement, language independent, interoperable. Basically, anywhere there's a need for Feedback Aide in your product, you can put it in there. And we've very excitingly, kind of over our beta period through the summer, we've had some clients already go and do this and work with us to integrate it. And they've been able to give us their feedback and to tell us what they think, which is really exciting. So this is a quote from a CTO at a digital curriculum provider. And they said, it's still early days, but Feedback Aid shows great promise in addressing a critical pain point, which is reducing that time and confusion teachers face when grading. This could be a game changer in how students or in how teachers and students interact and evaluate student work. Now that's a really awesome, wonderful thing to hear. But I think the ones that we love hearing about and that are more encouraging, even more encouraging, are things from former educators. So this was a former professor. I would have given a kidney for a product like this. And honestly, this caused a little explosion in our internal Slack group. Someone went to look up the black market value of a kidney. This really shows us, hey, that we're on the right track towards solving this problem. Another one from a former teacher, now a product manager, said, if I had this back when I was a teacher, I'd still be teaching 10th grade English. And I mentioned earlier that my mom is a teacher. She actually retired 10 years earlier than planned. And it was 100% related to workload, the stress, right, the burden of it. And so many of her and her friends just got really disillusioned, right, with the work that they had, and it was preventing them from being able to get into the weeds with learners, right? She loved doing enriching activities, and that it led to sort of the end of a career. It was a sort of sad situation there, and we're really
And
excited about retain. Yeah, yeah.
And this resonates really well with me because I've met 1,000 product owners probably across the edtech industry over my career, and more often than not, they were a frustrated teacher who decided to go and work for a edtech company or a publisher or whatever to try to kind of paint with a broader brush, right? To try to improve the education industry from the inside, because they didn't think they're making enough of an impact in the classroom, or they were frustrated with how things worked, or indeed they were overworked and trying to grade essays. So it's kind of really interesting to see the product owners and product managers who then kind of can use their, like, talk back to their teaching days and realize how much this will help them. So I want to bring you through in a few more demos here, if I may. So here is something we kind of previewed in a couple of webinars ago, kind of as a mock-up. It's live feedback for students. So here I am writing an essay. It's about volcanoes. I'm given the guidelines about what it should look like. In fact, I can probably look up the rubric and see what that looked like. And then I can get live feedback as I type it. So as a student, in a really non-combative way, in a really sort of a really low stakes way, I can see my feedback as I type it. So I can see, okay, I only got 2 out of 5 in introduction. It's weak. Okay, I need more focus. My organization needs more. The content needs more. I got 3 out of 5 on mechanics. Okay, fine. Let's have a look, and I'll improve my essay, make it a bit longer, add in some headings, and let's see what feedback I get now. And it goes and gives me some live feedback before I ever submit it to the teacher. And like the model how it works right now is that, so I've got a pretty good essay there. I get some confetti to celebrate. I've done better there. If I did a great essay, again, it'll give me maybe a higher score and again, more confetti. And the model in the past is I write an essay, I submit it to the teacher, like a week later, the teacher comes back and gives me some feedback. I forgot what I wrote. Here I'm getting in the moment feedback as I type. And it's so less confrontational than any kind of grade I get or any kind of nervousness I have around submitting this. I'm just getting it from the AI before I ever submit it. And now I'm really confident submitting my essay to my teacher to get my high grade, and I'm kind of delighted with that. And this is live. This works right now. And what this is for the developers among you is a headless version of Feedback Aide. You can use Feedback Aide with the UI that we showed before, this lovely grading UI, or you can use a UI free, a UI-less version, a headless version of the same API to do the scoring. So we did this version here in literally one day. One developer did it in one day by using the Feedback Aide, the default normal version of Feedback Aide, to go and build this and output the feedback live to student as they typed. So super exciting area. Now, we also want to talk about some of the more exciting things that we're going to do to enable, and we're going to enable using this. So one of the things we've been asked about is file uploads. So here I'm going to upload a Word file, and it's going to process the Word file. It's going to parse it, create HTML like you see on the left-hand side, and now it's going to grade it. So enabling this kind of richer assessment, we're going to talk to you about Word, I'm going to talk to you about video, but being able to upload files, Excel sheets, code samples, project work, PDFs, those are the types of things we're really excited about doing, and we want to talk to you guys about your use cases for this. But here's a Word example. It's parsing it, generating the HTML, and now generating the scoring, and of course, all importantly, the feedback. And now we're going to talk about video. So we don't have a great example for you, but here's a video that has been uploaded by a student. We've used AI to generate a transcript. So you can see this here. You can play the video, and I can also skip down through the transcript to see where I am in this video. So I can watch this video as a teacher, or I can just read the transcript. And now I can submit that for feedback again. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the video as my input, I'm generating all that transcript, I'm using that transcript into Feedback Aide to get the feedback and get that score for the student. This is the headless example, but it could easily be the version that has the full teacher grading thing. So here I get a 27 out of 30, there's 5 out of 5 in a bunch of areas, and the conclusion is weaker. So there's my grade in there. So again, this is where I'm excited about the different types of assessments that the same tool, the same code base can go and score.
Definitely.
Monet.
Agreed. Yeah. So what Gav showed you there was built with Feedback Aid, what's available right now. But we are looking, of course, into other applications, to other areas. So one area that we've seen as a kind of a problem area for our customers is with short answer and fill in the blank questions. Right? We've talked a lot about authentic assessment, and these are great because they are more reflective of true understanding because they can't be skewed with test taking strategies, right? Like I can't always say C for a fill in the blank and get a 50%, right? But the problem with them is, there can be an array of spelling mistakes. Learners think differently, they phrase things differently. It's really hard to put in the regex, and it's almost impossible to auto mark these kinds of questions. With AI, however, we can look at the intent of the answer and we can evaluate it appropriately. So we're looking here at this question. Caradicus was a king in ancient times around the River Thames. I had to look it up, but basically, this author or the author of the question, the teacher, is writing the history question. Maybe it's world history course. Maybe it's about the Roman Empire, and they're saying, where did Caradicus go when he lost the battle? The correct answers here are southern Wales and to the Silures tribe, where he started regrouping. So I provide those correct answers, and then what our short answer grading experience will do is auto score those responses. So we see answers there that we just couldn't accommodate, right, with regex. So Wales, that's right. The mountains, Wales has mountains, but that's incorrect. We have a spelling mistake, but that's okay. They got the gist. Tribe Silures, great. We have a tribe here at the bottom, but it's the wrong one, so it's incorrect. So with this, we're looking at pedagogically improved assessments while still saving time for teachers. And if that area is interesting to you, please definitely get in touch. Yeah, Gab.
There's so many opportunities here, bar exam, short answers, higher ed stuff. We've seen so many things. It's one of the things that we've been asked about for years, and we just never could find the perfect way to author a full comprehensive list of all possible correct answers to something. Here, you're authoring the question, or you're generating the question using author aid, and then you're using some combination of AI, and maybe the author is authoring all of the correct answers. So in this case here, it's Wales and the name of the tribe and so on that have been generated as kind of sample correct answers. And then the AI then will do that matching and will understand the intent of the response. So we see huge opportunities here. Again, if you have a large number of these short answer questions, we'd love to hear from you, and we can go through and we can look at old responses you have, and build this out alongside you.
Definitely. And not just short answer. We're looking in a whole lot of different areas. We're looking at tuning and engineering models for more specific use cases. So things like scientific lab reports or coding. We're looking at bringing in multi-language support, audio and video support, and annotations. I know another thing that is so exciting is we have the AI labs now in Dublin, where Gav is in office with them, and they're working dedicated, right, to doing all of this AI development. So if you have grading problems, data sets, if you're interested, please come and talk to us. Use my wonderful shortened email, monet@learnosity.com. I would love to work with you and figure out and work together really to provide our learners with exceptional support while, reclaiming those weekends for teachers. Yeah, so I think you're going to get a survey as well at the end of this to answer, and it'll help sort of facilitate that ability to connect.
So takeaways here is there's a huge problem here. Teachers are spending 5 hours a week, and we can reclaim that time. They can deliver more effective, better feedback in much, much less time. Super cost effective. And because we're doing it for such a reasonable price, it brings in a whole lot of essays, a lot of formative stuff that wasn't really cost effective enough to do before. You couldn't really do that with AI before. You got human level accuracy. We're doing some studies with a university, a really top university, to publish those results and to have them like kind of third party audited. We really feel strongly about student welfare, and being able to add in that opportunity to check for cries for help and other problematic content is really important. That's really great, an opportunity to do that. There's a bunch more things coming soon, and we'd love to work with you guys on your kind of grading challenges. So with that, feel free to reach out to myself or Monet, or Monet, or team@learnosity.com. But we'll do a few questions here. So Monet, what have the questions been from the attendees?
Yeah. Let's see. I see one from Susan Levac asking, does the model have memory? Can it recognize the student's writing style and whether an essay is authentic or was assisted by AI?
So no, we haven't included that in the scope in terms of trying to recognize a student's style over time. We think that obviously will change. And we explicitly haven't added in kind of AI detection. Honestly, the reason is I believe that AI detection doesn't work. The folks out there who are trying to sell AI detection, they're selling snake oil. And even if it worked today, it won't work tomorrow, because there will be either new LLM or new prompting technique to not make it detectable anymore. And honestly, if I built AI detection, I could sell it for like $1 billion to Google to help improve their search engine results. The key application for that is not high school or higher ed essays. It just doesn't work, and it won't work in the future. So we're not doing AI detection, and we haven't included anything about writing style just yet. Also, it kind of brings us into the idea of plagiarism detection, and we're explicitly not doing that too. And one of the reasons is because if I want to plagiarize something, I literally can pass it through AI and say, write this, that it's the same points, but it's unrecognizable in terms of sentence structure and so on. And that will work, and that will beat any plagiarism detector. So we haven't included that in the scope at all. This is just analyzing the essays as they come through.
Yeah. And one from KR, is this system built on top of other, example, OpenAI, Anthropic APIs, or does Learnosity have its own independent essay grading technology? It's a really good question.
Yeah, really good question. No, it's built on top of different LLMs, and we're making that transparent to the user, right? As you can see there, as we improve the kind of the June to August to now examples, that's a couple of things. That's us, one, being able to update which LLMs are being used, and it's also the tuning piece and the getting better at engineering around those things. We're also experimenting with passing through two LLMs for the same essay, and then either taking an average of those two scores, or We know that this LLM is better at sentence structure, and this one is better at literary analysis, or whatever those things are, and then choosing the appropriate grade based on the appropriate LLM. So yeah, it's built on top of standing on the shoulders of giants, using LLMs in there. But I will stress that we are not in any way training those LLMs. We have the enterprise versions of those LLMs, and we have contractually with the number of providers we're using, and there is multiple of them. We've contractually agreed with them that they're not using these essays or these responses in any way to train a black box behind the scenes. So that's not happening.
Awesome. I know we're a little bit over time, but maybe one or two more here.
Sure.
Um, from Daniel Jackson, if you're not training the LLM, by what mechanism is the accuracy improving? That's another good one. I think it goes to the engineering that our teams are doing on top, standing on the shoulder of giants, the tuning, the ensembling. There is a lot of work actually that goes into that engineering for this use case.
Yeah, we're just getting better and better at it. And because we're seeing, because we have our data set to kind of train and kind of daily or weekly, when we have a new technique or a new, like it's like a F1, a Formula One engine, we're kind of tuning it daily, and then we can run through all the existing data sets and see if that has made it a little bit better or a little bit worse. And we're learning from that all the time and getting that little bit better all the time, as that's improving changing the underlying LLM if necessary, changing some of the techniques and some of the tuning and how we're working with that, and then being able to run the data through it over and over again to see what makes it better, and then doing real analysis on it to check how it compares to humans. So the data sets we have, by definition, have been already graded professionally by humans. So sometimes they're used in summative assessments, sometimes used in formative, and a professional author, a professional grader has already graded those assignments. So you're generally able to compare then our AI grade with the human grade, like the official grade for that particular essay. Sometimes we have two human essays and then human scores, and then our AI score.
For
One
sure.
last question.
Yeah, let's do one more. This is another one from KR. I think it's a great question. Love this question. How can I get started integrating this into our internal essay grading system? Do you provide an API key and documentation? So, yes, we obviously have documentation, we have the API keys, but the real answer is you get in touch.
Exactly. Love that. Yeah, and it's really easy it's really easy. Could not be any easier to implement this. So have the API to go and do that. We'll give you the documentation for it, and we'd love to be working with more of you guys. If you have existing data sets, we will go and we'll do a study to see how it compares with your existing grading and what you need to do with your rubrics and so on. We are, I should have mentioned, we are taking any rubric that has been designed for a human and working with that. You don't need to redo rubrics. We are finding that we're going to be better and better over the weeks and the months and the years ago that are coming at writing rubrics that suit AI better. And that's an area we can improve on. So working with you to look at your existing data to see how accurate this is, and how you can implement it into your product.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do a demo similar to ones you've seen now with your own content and go through it with you so you can really see how it works there. So get in touch. Our emails are here, team@learnosity.com. Respond to the survey. And I think that's about our time.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Monet.
Thank you. Have a great day.